Mark Pierce has got a little bit of work to do to try and get into the top 8. He's in 9th place at the moment. Has to kick off. He's up against Sundström here. So as I say, we will have 2 heats coming up. And in the meantime, we'll keep you across what's happening in terms of hammer qualification. And then afterwards, pole vault when that gets underway. Well, we're talking about the French pedigree in this event. And this is Jalali Bedrani, who was 4th at the European Indoors. 8:13 season's best at the Marrakesh Diamond League. And then over to Osama Zoglami, bronze medalist from 2 years ago. Also fastest time of the year in Marrakesh, 8:19.54. In fact, what you'll see is that many of these men have all been in the same races together. I suppose there aren't too many high-quality elite steeplechase races. That's one reason for it. Picking out also Karl Babendorf of Germany. So he was 5th on home soil, of course, at the last edition of these championships in Munich. And he's one of the improvers this year, one of a few improvers this year, taking 2.7 seconds off his lifetime best this season. Fastest time of 8:16.84 in Warsaw in Poland. And then Mark Pierce of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Fantastic opportunity for him. Previously a finalist at the World University Games. And also been to the World Schools Championships. But in terms of major championship at senior level, one of the big 4, if you like, then this is his first. So now underway in this race. Of course, 2 years ago, the final won by Topi Raitanen for Finland, but prior to that, 5 times by Mahedin Mekissi-Benabad. Many of these men have run well at Marrakesh Diamond League, or that Horso race, or in Huelva at the end of April. And talking of Spain, you can see Alejandro Quijada at the front of this, 8:24.38. He's improved to this year. So 7.5 laps of the track for these men. First heat of 2. And it's the first 8 in each heat that will progress through to the final. As we're saying, Daniel Arquette, the best time in Europe this year, 8:12.28. And he will go in the second heat in a few moments' time.
You could argue that the second heat's slightly more loaded in terms of seeding and quality of athletes and credentials of the athletes competing in that heat, but it's still a very good heat indeed. But with 8 to go through, no fastest non-automatic qualifiers these days, with the change in rules as dictated, if you like, by the World Athletics, changing the qualification measures. And our co-commentator Tim Hutchings, who has a great endurance background, very much of the opinion that this is the best way to go for championship racing, rather than have different conditions and then the second or later heats, the men in those heats knowing what they need to do and obviously running a little bit faster and keeping the pace quicker.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If the athletes support it, then ultimately it's for the best.
I haven't heard of much pushback on the change of rules, I have to say.
Always when there's an initial change of rules, sometimes they can be pushed back, and there will be situations where an athlete will think, well, actually, had it been the previous system, I actually would have made it based on position. And they'll look at that, might reflect on that, hopefully not for too long, but once we get used to something and it seems to work and has to support the athletes, then that'll be for the best.
So this is Yassin Boui at the front, taking the lead. Man who's got good flat speed, 6 times national indoor champion over 1,500 metres, and personal best of 3:37 for the 1,500 metres. So He's also got some good times to his name over 10 kilometres on the road as well, and has had a couple of outings on the roads during the early part of the season. As we see Delfandra just go through. 3:04.69, so a very pedestrian first kilometre.
Yeah, incredibly so, but now starting to push on a little. Yeah, it's interesting with Bowie, though, because he's made 6.6 seconds improvement this year. First steeplechase was in 2021. Another who ran quickly, that personal best you mentioned, in Horso.
Well, that first kilometre in this first heat of the men's steeplechase was only a few tenths faster than Stella Ruto ran in the first heat yesterday to set to run a ultimately 9:30, but at the time it was the fastest qualifier ever in a European Championships women's 3,000 metre steeplechase. That's Rattinger going up to the front, the Austrian. He's a man who will certainly fancy his chances of getting into the final with a personal best of 8:26 this year, and has improved to that mark earlier this year. Zouglami, well, we've seen a lot of Zouglami and European athletics events. Osama Zinzagli has featured quite prominently in events like the European Team Championships over the years. He's been a stalwart of the Italian team, and I'm sure that morale in the Italian team after that tremendous first day has been boosted sky high. It was already pretty high, as team captain Gianmarco Tamberi was explaining at the press conference on Thursday. They're really up and motivated for this, as they are the reigning European team champions from Silesia last year. So, just passed through 1,600 metres. 4:43.93. It's coming up on our commentator information system. And of course, if you want to follow all live results, including splits, go on to the European Athletics website, www.european-athletics.com.
Yes, previously coming through with 4 laps to go. It was a 68-second lap with Tobias Rattinger of Austria. Of course, already have a medal from these championships in the men's discus, a silver, leading them round. Zouglami was keen to get up onto the shoulder, though. So Zouglami from Bedrani, two of the athletes you'd expect to be at the front of this race, and the other French athlete, Nicolas Maridaru, improved to 8:16.36 this year. Improved by 2 seconds in Horso. Another who was in that race, Mark Pierce, in a good position. You can just see from above that they have whittled down to a group of 9, I think, is at the front. There's an athlete that's fallen there. Belgian, it looked like Remy Schnuss, I think it is. And looked to be in some pain as well. So hope he's all right. On to the final lap now. Babendorf also in this group. Just has to make sure that he's in the top 8. Still too many athletes off the back of this one. More and more spread out, though. Zouglami has a look up at the big screen. Still the 2 Frenchmen behind him. Babendorf is there. Simon Sundström of Sweden. 8:17 this year in Stockholm, just behind his teammate Emil Blomberg, who goes in the second heat. Bowie re-emerges at the front now. Mark Pierce has got a little bit of work to do to try and get into the top 8. He's in 9th place at the moment. Has to kick off. He's up against Sundström here. Does just make it. All pushing and shoving, charging their way through. Athlete there right on the inside, almost pushing those in front to give himself some space. 8:34. 8:33.63 officially for Jalali Bedrani coming through, and Simon Sundström appeared to one that just missed out, and it was Damien Visch who charged off that final barrier and almost went fists out to try and clear himself some room down that home straight. Skjærbø of Norway looks exhausted there. Wonder whether he had a bit of an issue on that last lap. Just having a look. Two Frenchmen, Schneider, who we didn't see feature early on in the race, kept himself part of that lead group, and in the end, top 8 is fairly easy qualification compared, for example, to top 6.
So these are the middle stages of the race, and we're looking at Zuglami with Daru up there, Bedrani, most of the main contenders. This was the incident that Alex pointed out through the commentary. Remy Shins going down. Oh, he was probably the major casualty of this heat, and unfortunately didn't finish. So the 8:18 man from Belgium, just outside this year's European top 10, won't progress to the final. But in the end, most of the main expected contenders went through. Schneider having to work a little bit harder than he might have liked, but Bedrani, you can see there, just letting everybody know he's got plenty left in the tank. Bedrani looks very, very comfortable, as does his teammate Darrow as well. A few of the men behind him, the Germans like Schneider and Bebendorf, having to work a little bit harder in that sprint.
So these are the top 8, 2 Italians, 2 Frenchmen and 2 Germans among those that make it through. Mark Pierce just doing enough in the end. Always looked like he would in the closing stages, but did give us a few nerves.
As we switch back to the track for about another 9 minutes, as we look at the second heat of the men's 3,000 metre steeplechase. Well, from the outside, it's Nahuel Carabagna, who has a decent chance of getting Andorra's very first medal at the European Athletics Championships. This is the defending champion, Topi Raitanen. He's been in good form this year, run 8:21. This is Osama Zuglami's brother, Ala Zuglami. In fact, twins, but Osama, to be fair, is probably the better known of the two. Has a best of 8:14, Ala Zuglami, so not quite as quick as his brother, but still a very, very useful runner. There's Daniel Arke leading the way. Arke's got his own small contingent of supporters who've made their way to this fantastic Olympic stadium. Well, back at the last time we were here for a European Athletics Championships in 1974, we saw what was at the time, and I've looked it up on YouTube. I was very young at the time, don't remember it personally, but I've seen it subsequently and saw one of the great steeplechases of that era, won by Bronislaw Malinowski in 8:15 exactly, just 1 second, exactly 1 second outside the world record. Anders Garderud chasing him home after a titanic battle. The German, East German Lesser coming through, and then a man who I've seen a couple of times around, the great Italian journalist Franco Fava, wonderful character. He finished 4th in an Italian record of 8:19, and it was an absolutely terrific race. There's grainy footage, and if you enjoy watching heritage events like the 3,000 metre steeplechase from 50 years ago, I can definitely recommend looking it up. But here we are, well into the 21st century, and it is the two Spaniards, Fernando Caro and Daniel Arke, who are leading the way at the moment. Faster pace in this opening kilometre than we had in the first heat. Doesn't really matter nowadays, as we were talking about qualification. Oh, there's a faller. That looks like the Turk in there. So, Turkey's Abdullah Tugluk takes a tumble. He's back on his feet quickly. He's trying to get back in the main pack as we come up 1,000 metres, 1 kilometre, 2:50.66. So it's a good 15 seconds faster than the first heat.
Yeah, certainly is faster. Not quite sure it's that much faster.
15 seconds faster. That's a fair bit faster.
I'm pretty sure it was 3:04 for the opening.
Yeah,
split,
that's 2:50.
Oh, sure, 2:56 pop up.
Aha.
So that might be why. So RK leading the way. Blue bib showing that he's the European leader. He's got Zach Seddon for company. Seddon hoping to follow his teammate Pierce through. Oh no, we've got another Belgian athlete on the ground, just as we had in the first heat. It's Tim van der Velde. And once again, hope he can receive attention. Seddon is down as well, so bit of attrition in this race. That was off the back of the water jump there. He's still made his way up pretty quickly, really. Once again, quite congested. You've got Rupert at the front, the German. 8:17.41 this year. 69-second lap that time around, so similar sort of pace at this particular phase of the race compared to the first heat. Once again, though, it's just the top 8 going through by position. Nahuel Carabanya of Andorra, who has an opportunity come the final, if he can make it, to win their first ever medal in the history of these championships, previously doing so at under 23 level, but that would be an incredible achievement. Has to qualify first. Well, Zach Seddon has done a terrific job to recover almost to the position that he was in previously before that slip. But Topi Raitanen, defending champion, is at risk of being cut off the back of this pack. That's perhaps the big story, the way this race is turning out at this point as they come through with 3 laps to go now.
Yes, Raitanen just had one outing this year, had an 8:21 in Karlsruhe fairly recently. Hasn't been racing very much at all, so maybe not 100% race fit, notwithstanding the fact that he had that good time. Daniel RK getting up front. Rupert. Well, Rupert, 8:15 man this year. Doing very well indeed. He's been driving the pace at the front, and that's certainly whittled down the field. So 2,000 metres, 5:37. So still a quick pace, much quicker than the first lap. Daniel RK up there. Made the final of the last European Championships. Missed out on the medals though, and came good though. Helped Spain with victory in the European Team Championships last year in Silesia. And it is warm out there again. It's about 30 degrees out there. Not terribly humid, but just you can see the athletes at the front working very hard at this stage. Also up there, melee. So it's Rupert, RK, Melee, Carabanya, Seddon, Johansson, Zuglami and Bloomberg. They're the men in the automatic qualifying positions at the moment. No Fernando Caro up there. Where's Caro at the moment? Caro, of course, European Championship silver medalist in 2018. Caro's off the back from the looks of things. And that would be a little bit of a surprise. No, he hasn't been running as well as previous years, but to see Caro eliminated. But Rupert really working hard as they come up to the bell. It's Rupert leading the way as he's done through most of the second 2 kilometres. RK looking comfortable on the inside now, just edging in front. Melee. Well, Melee has run a tactically astute race. Well, they've all navigated the barriers at the front. Still the 2 Swedes up there. Johansson leading the way. Blomberg just tracking him. Now there's a group of 5 starting to stretch away, get away from the rest. Well, Reitenen struggling, but he is in a qualifying position at the moment. He's back down in about 7th. But it is Rupert. Well, he's brought his expertise to bear, has Rupert, and comes through very comfortably at the front with Daniel Arce. 8:21. So good, 13 seconds faster than the first heat, but as we're saying, no fastest non-automatic qualifiers anymore. It's the first 8 men through. Daniel Arce taking the win, 8:21.46. That's a very quick time for a European Athletics Championship qualifier. Melee comes through, looks very, very calm and collected. The Frenchman, Alexis Melee, who had a very good teenage career, but is now 29 years of age.
There were some fantastic recoveries in that race. Zach Seddon, who was just flashing across the right of picture there, of course, at one point had that slip, not quite as Van der Velde ended up on the floor, but did drift back quite a few positions. And then Reitenen, as you said, was looking detached from the pack, ended up in 5th place by the end of things. The defending champion just towards the back of this group now. There's the fall for Van der Velde. You can see athletes having to push and shove and actually step on the inside of the track in order to take evasive action. That's what happened to Seddon, so he did actually end up on the ground, but he got up so quickly and got on with it. Really wasn't too flustered by that. Huge, huge credit.
As we see the results, Arce, Rupert, Melee, they were the 1, 2, 3 in that heat. 8:21.46, 8:21.49, 8:22.19, all the way down. And perhaps most pleased man of them all was the Czech runner Habata, who got through in 8th place.
Yes, just looking at the full confirmed result, Arce leading the way. I mentioned also that the Italian Bui only had 3 years steeplechase experience. Well, Miele, who's qualified there, it's only his 4th steeple race ever. You can see Bedrani, his teammate, joining along with Daru, as ever, a big French contingent.